Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Biome podcast, a space for nurturing the ecosystem of business, body, and living. What would it be like if you gave your body a leadership role in your business and chose greater happiness every day? These are the conditions that create a healthy biome and a thriving business. I'm your host, Heather Nichols, and I'm so happy you're here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Biome podcast. This is Heather Nichols, and I am really excited to play with you this week about neurology, biology, and creation. A couple people have asked me to share some body stories. And I thought this would be kind of a cool topic to play with that. And what do I mean by body stories? Well, stories of some things that I've created with my body, and some ways that how I include my body in my business and how I include my body in what I'm creating. Because I get, like, to me, this is a really key piece of being fully alive. It's a key piece of the health of the biome, of the entrepreneurial biome, and the biome of your living and your life. And it's also one that is a really new and really different conversation for a lot of people. And we don't talk about this. Like, it's not something you learn anywhere. It's not something we grow up knowing about. So it's new, for a lot of people, and it's different. It's a different way of being, and it's a different way of living. And it's something that, to me, just expands all the time and grows all the time. And I'm, more present all the time with my body, and just aware of, new information that it's giving me. And if you haven't listened to any of the previous episodes, I would say go back and listen to some of those as well, because I do weave this in really to every podcast, I would say, for the most part. And because one of the reasons I've created this podcast, is because I would really like to have a conversation out there about this. Like, I'd love to live in a world where people are really connected to their bodies, and where we actually get the incredible, immense gift that these amazing organisms called our bodies are, not just in the way that we think of them, in the standard operating procedure of how we relate to bodies, but really in how the organism of your body informs everything. So, I guess, and with this topic of the neurology, biology, and creation, it's like there's this incredible unfolding that can happen through changes in the nervous system that create a different possibility with relaxation, a different possibility with embodiment, and a different possibility with creation. And our bodies actually know about that. And the way that we move in that direction, and there's no there to get to. I just want to say that it's a direction that we move in. The way that we move in that direction is by being really present with our bodies and acknowledging the gift and the contribution that they can be to all of that. So one of the things that, actually a very recent experience that I've had. So there's a couple things I've been doing. There's three new to me, newish to me body tools that I've been using that have been absolutely amazing. One of them is called Bowspring movement. And it's this incredible, it's actually a postural movement system. It's a fascial movement system. So meaning we work with our fascia, like it actually reshapes the fascia of the body. And the fascia of the body is actually, it's tissue that wraps, there's more fascia in our body than probably anything else. It wraps our organs, it wraps our nerves, it wraps our bones, it wraps our muscles, it wraps and wraps and wraps everything. And fascia is actually as strong as steel. It's very, very strong, and it's very resilient. And it also can get very contracted. It can get adhesed. It can get like it. So when the fascia actually contracts and gets, crunchy and stuck, and it's not lubricated, it's not hydrated, all these different pieces, it actually contracts. It's a big part of why our structure gets compromised. So, if you have pain or whatever, then whatever it may be, a lot of times, maybe almost always, is you can work with the fascia to change it, because the fascia holds in place the muscles and the bone, the arrangement of the bones and all of that. But one other piece about the fascia that is amazing is that it's very connected to the nervous system. And so, and I've talked before about how, our nervous system is, like, we go into this fight, like, we obviously all know about the fight or flight response, and we go into this, need to flee or freeze or fight, in order to protect ourselves. And that's a very natural instinct. It's part of our autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And it's how we've survived as long as we have, as a species. And there's also something that we can really evolve, where we can evolve beyond that. And I am really fascinated by the evolution of our evolution and how our bodies can be part of that. And so, so as we change the fascia, because the fascia is also like this protective mechanism that when the sympathetic nervous system gets engaged, the fascia gets engaged, and the fascia helps us to move and respond and all that, as well as a lot of chemicals, and there's a whole bunch of different things that get triggered. But as that occurs, our bodies go into a different state, and it becomes more about survival. And the unfortunate thing is that most people basically live there at this point, because the world is obviously not the most welcoming place in a lot of ways. There's a lot of invalidation in the world of who we are, of our bodies. There's a lot of abuse in the world. There's a lot of unkindness in the world. And I actually don't tend to have the point of view that the world is a horrible place. I actually have the point of view that it's beautiful. I mean, particularly the planet. But there are some amazing people in the world, and I love surrounding myself with beautiful people. But the experience of growing up in a world, as we're these little creatures as children, where we're here, we're like so innocent, and our bodies are relatively healthy and, robust, and like our fascia is very flexible and fluid and all that, and our nervous system as well. And of course, there's some things that happen for some people at birth and before birth and all of that. But for the most part, as children, we have a much more robust, healthy, dynamic system, biology, neurology. Then as we get older, we have experiences that lock in points of view, and our points of view create our reality inside of our bodies and out. And they create how we see the world, and they actually shape how our fascia is organized, how our nervous system is organized. So there's all these different pieces that come into play. And with that, our bodies begin to hold themselves according to all of that input, all of the invalidation, the abuse, the trauma, the just challenge of being in the world, and that dynamically affects how we can show up in our lives. And so one of the things that that Bowspring does I didn't lose my train of thought. I just have ADD and ADHD and OCD and autism. um, Yeah, I haven't been, like, diagnosed with any of those things, but I have a different brain, different way of functioning. Um, so, so, we continually shape our world from that place, and shape our bodies. And so Bowspring is something that actually reshapes the body by reshaping the fascia and giving the fascia a different possibility through movement. And very different movement that actually honors the structure of the body the way it was meant to be, not the way that yoga says it is, or Pilates says it is, or any of the other, postural movement systems that are more based on a linear posture. Bowspring is really based on a curvy posture, the curves of our spine, the hollows of our body, the mounds of our body, the curve of our neck, the curve of our belly, the mound of the back of the head, the hollow of the back of the neck. So there's all these different beautiful ways that our body can be open in all directions. But that's when it's very, very like optimized in an incredibly healthy way. And Bowspring helps us to recreate that. Well, to create that anew, I would say, rather than recreate it. We can create it anew through our movement and really challenging our fascia. And I just the other day I had this beautiful experience of doing Bowspring, and it's like because I can feel my fascia actually being stretched. And the beautiful thing about fascia is that it is so strong, so it can, it's also so moldable, and it actually, it can, be reshaped in how it holds itself. And it also, takes a fair amount of input to do that because it's because it is so strong. So it tends to hold on to its patterns, but there's also a lot of ways to melt it. And I have a lot of tools for fascia. I'm fascinated with it. It's an amazing thing. I've been playing with my fascia a lot lately, and it's been a huge gift to explore how I can rearrange it in a different way. And as I was doing my Bowspring practice, it's like all this like opening and challenging like our head to move away from our ribs, to move away from our pelvis, to narrow and lengthen our waist and narrow and lengthen our neck and reinstate these curves. And it's like, whoa, sometimes for me it's so expansive. It's like, whoa, and the beautiful thing about the practice is also we have time to go, okay, something just changed here. And I could feel as I was moving, I could feel my fascia rearranging. And as I could feel that, I could feel my nervous system rearranging. And a lot of times when our nervous system rearranges, it's it's triggering, because our nervous system is so wired to be a certain way. And we like carve those neurological, biological, fascial, chemical pathways into our bodies. And then the way that your neurology and your biology shows up is how your creative world shows up. So you carve a neurological, fascial, biological, chemical, energetic pathways, many pathways into your body. You're going to want to maintain that if you're in a survival mode, which most of us are to some degree. And the way that you create it kind of has to stay within the realm of what can maintain that. And so as we challenge and expand and invite our fascia, our nervous system, all these different aspects of our body to reorganize and organize in the direction of greater evolution, greater, structural aliveness, I'll say. And as we do that, like there's an opportunity for creation to actually show up in a different way, because creation has so much to do also with how we be in the world, and what we're willing to, like the energies that we're willing to show up as. And that determines in such a huge way the choices that you're willing to make. And so as those as you know, our body changes, it's like the menu of our choices gets way bigger. And as the menu of our choices gets way bigger, what we can create gets way bigger. And so in a lot of ways, one of the easiest ways to expand your creative reality is actually to go to the body, to go to the neurology, to go to the fascial systems, to go to like the organization of your fascia, to go to you're changing your chemistry, all these different things in the energetic pathways of your body. And I have a gajillion tools for all of that. So maybe I think what I'm going to do is actually do a little bit of a series right now over the next few weeks on these tools, because there's a lot that I want to actually give you. And it's not one podcast, it may be multiple podcasts. So we'll see where we go. But for now, let's dive a little bit more into this, this piece that I wanted to share today, the story. So as I was moving, it was like I actually started crying when I was doing the Bowspring. I was in an online class, and I never, for me, tears don't mean that there's anything wrong, or I never mean that there's anything wrong, but they usually don't mean that I don't usually identify tears with like I'm having a strong emotional experience or whatever. I'm open to that. And I've done a lot of work with emotions over the years. And I find that going to the energy it's just way more efficient and dynamic. And I get to the change happens a lot faster, let's just say. And so a lot of, when I cry, I will check in and go, is this my body releasing? And my body was releasing. My body was releasing a lot of neurological patterns through the reshaping and rearranging and reorganizing, or like new organization, because it's not because it's not going back to anything, but it's the shaping, the evolving, and the organizing in a greater direction of my fascia and my neurology. And it was amazing, because I was like, wow. Like there were moments where I was like, I feel like I have a totally new body, a totally different body. How do I be with this beautiful thing here, called my body? How do I move this beautiful body? And I have been a mover my whole life. And it was like, felt like I was moving for the first time. And so I, so yeah, and it was so cool, because as soon as I just rode the wave of it all. And as soon as I finished with that practice, it was, my whole creative world exploded. And I really rode the wave. I let my fascia just like stretch in ways that it hadn't before, reshape, organize in the direction of greater. I let my nervous system like have a moment of like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Oh, wow, I can let go. I can release. I can relax in a way that I've never relaxed before. And then, allow the tears, and then, within, I don't know, a half an hour after that experience, I was like, all right, game on. And there were all these ideas coming to me, all of these creative possibilities. I'm like, oh, and I almost recorded this podcast then, but I didn't have the time. So I was like, okay, I got to do a podcast on neurology, biology, and creation. And da, 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 da. So it was like all this creative energy became available to me. and these juices were flowing in a completely different way. And I had access to me. I had access to my being in ways that I hadn't had before. It was amazing, and this happens to me all the time. This is this is kind of really how I live. I just, someone said, "Hey, tell a story about this," because I we don't usually recognize that we function very differently, and however differently you may function, and we all do. We all have these ways that we function that are not like anybody else or anything else. And so it's like I'm always just in this world with my body, in this space with my body, having this play of exploring and getting information, from my body in new ways. And so, so that was kind of the purpose of this podcast today, is just to come and share that as a different possibility, not because you would do it the way that I do or that your body would function the way mine does, but to me, this is a huge part of, like, we're starting to get into kind of some of the like nitty gritty in a way of the entrepreneurial biome. And this conversation will continue to evolve. But you can see how, hopefully, from this short, snippet here, you can start to get a sense in a different way, maybe not, of how valuable it is to shape your body in all the ways in the direction of greater, in an evolutionary way, and how easily and effortlessly that facilitates greater creation as an entrepreneur, greater presence, greater connection to you, greater relaxation. And I will say that does translate into our money flows. Like, our money flows just open up when those spaces open up. And a lot of times we don't make that connection because it's not something you can measure. But I have seen it in my own world time and time again, that my money flows change and expand, as my body and my neurology, my biology, my biochemistry, my fascial, um, you know, structure and organization of my fascia changes. And I will be talking more about fascia on this podcast, because to me it's just, and I actually would like to have some guests who work with it in different ways to come and explore. It is a universe unto itself. It's not one that most people know about, talk about, are aware of. And it's so connected to all of these pieces. And, we can get really out there in a wonderful way and explore how that affects the earth and communion and oneness and all of those things. There's a real incredible way that there's so many really cool conversations to be had about that for a later time. But I hope this was a contribution to you as kind of a short one today. And yeah, if you would like to check out Bowspring, you can go to bowspring.com. Desi Springer and John Friend are the creators of it. Desi Springer, I believe, is the woman who created it, and John Friend co-creates it with her. And she is a teacher of mine and an incredible creature. I'll have her on this podcast for sure. And then also, I want to shout out to my friend Paris Latka, who also is a beautiful Bowspring teacher, who I always forget her website, but we'll put it in the show notes. I think it's like I am something something. It's long, so I always forget it. But we'll put it in the notes. She has some beautiful online courses and YouTube stuff as well. And I am going to start. I have started teaching Bowspring, and I'm going to be doing more of it. I'm going to do a class in Paris next week on October 29th. Actually, this Sunday. So if you're in Paris, come and join me. You can look on my website to find that information. And I'll probably be putting some stuff online at some point about it as well. I'm just diving into it. So I'm a newbie, and we'll see where we go with it all. But it's been such a gift to me in so many ways. And the coolest thing is, like, my body has gotten, I was having a lot of pain in my body, and my body has really gotten out of a lot of pain, partially from Bowspring and a few other pieces that I'll share with you. That's been, I mean, how amazing that you can get out of pain in your body and have your creative world explode and your money flows too. Like, what? How does that work? Well, we'll keep talking about it. So thank you so much for being here. Do all the things. If you enjoy this podcast, like, subscribe, share, etc. And just, how much fun can you have with your body today? Enjoy. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me for the Entrepreneurial Biome podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. For more resources, check out my website at heathernichols.com and my social media channels as well. Have a beautiful day, and remember that your business thrives when you do.